Alright, 1. Winning the game. What is the object of blackjack? In short, the object of the game is to hold cards closer to 21 than the dealers without going over the card count face value, except for aces, which can be 1 or 11. What are the odds of blackjack? For the game, blackjack have the best odds for the casino played correctly. Playing basic strategy has been formulated with millions of computer simulations. Give the player has best chance puts him around 3%. Disadvantage just means that every $100 wager the player will lose about $3. This can vary, however, and in the short run also varies according to the casino rules. The card counter, on the other hand, can gain advantage of 3% or more over the casino while perfect playing. Is the blackjack beatable? I'm sure that asking yourself if the blackjack is really beatable. Well, the answer is yes, the game is beatable for the simple reason of the removal of the single card effects. The rest of the game to be played. Imagine 10 cards placed in the bag. The 5 of them were high cards, 10 and ace, and the 5 of the low cards, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 2, 3, or 6. Your initial odds of getting a 10 and an ace would be 50% more. Now you could say you removed 2 little cards, which you permanently remove. Your odds of getting a high card would now be 5 out to 8, 62.5%. So if you remove the 2 more little cards, your odds of drawing a high card are now 5 out of 6, on roughly 84%, knowing that you had 84%. Chance of getting a 10 and an ace, you would increase your bet, but of course, on the other hand, if you knew your odds were reversed, you'd had only 1 out of 6 chance of 16%. It would be small, but wouldn't you? It's because of this reason blackjack is beatable. You have the advantage of the betting bigger, winning more, with the disadvantage of either not playing or betting small. This allows you to win more than you lose, thus going home with your money. This allows you to win more than you lose, this going home with their money. Players when there players when there is a positive deck. In other words, a higher percentage of 10s and aces remains. Little cards, a positive deck gives the player 3 distinct advantages. The odds of getting blackjack, where you are paid 3 to 2, increase the chance of the dealer busting if the must draw will increase. The odds of getting the high cards on the double down increase. On the flip side, when the low card is majority of the deck, the casino has the advantage. Why? In this case, the odds are high and player will be mediocre hand. The dealer will show the low card as well. Following basic strategy, the player will do the right thing and stay. Then the dealer will draw 1 more on little cards, end up making his hand. 2. Playing the game. The setup. The normal blackjack table is similarly circle shaped, it consists of 67 player spots, evenly spaced to show around an arc marked with either circles or design of the same sort, but wherever the player places his bet, with the dealer placing around on the opposite side of the table, the dealer right side of the black card. Listening to the rules and playing with the table, limited discard stand for the cards that have been played to be held directly in front of the dealer, and chip tray as he was left of the shoe in which the cards are being held. To shuffle, the dealer will shuffle the deck or decks before play is started. Every casino will have its own way of shuffling. In general, the cards will be divided into small stacks, then shuffled together 2 stacks at a time. Once cards shuffled, the player will be asked to cut with the cards. The cards will be realigned with the dealer to cut. The dealer will be pocketed. Put a colored plastic card into the indicate stopping point of the shoe. This card then placed in the shoe. It is time to play. All players wishing to play must buy in exchange for cash or chip. To do this, it simply places it on the hands of this cable and asks the dealer whatever denomination chips he would like. To start, players place the wagers appropriate for the betting circle with 1 to play, and bet all are placed. The dealer starts to deal with the cards are dealt with 1 at a time. When the shoe of the rotation goes clockwise, each player is given 1 card face. If the dealer then takes 1 card face down, this process is repeated 1 more time. The dealer then turns 1 of his cards face up, leaves the whole card face down. Not everyone has 2 cards. The player begins with the player's hands at 1 at a time. Not everyone has 2 cards. The players beginning with their hands 1 at a time. This process begins with the player to the dealer to the left side or first base, or continues clockwise. Last player third base. Once all players have played with their hand, the dealer begins to play this. Then the dealer makes his hand or busts out. All the players will still be the game of the beat the dealer, get them paid. Chips are discarded. Play resumes again. This process is carried out until the yellow card is reached in the shoe and symbolizing a new shuffle of the cards. 3 players option. For players who are new to blackjack, we'll discuss playing strategy upcoming chapter. The basic strategy of the computer generated strategy to tell the player best way to play that hand Play this hand with every situation that may arrive. The player is ready to being played in his hand. He has 4 distinct options to stay, stand, double down, split pairs. Each option has a distinct signal and it must be within order to prevent confusion when the player has intended to do so. If the player chooses to stay with his hand, he simply needs to just wave over the flat of the card over the cards without touching. In case the player wants to draw an additional card, he needs to touch the table or scratch the table with his index finger. The dealer will then proceed to deal with another card, receiving the card that the player chooses with his hit again, simply because he makes the signal once again. If he decides to stay, he would wave his hand over the cards. If the player has a pair, he may choose to split the cards into 2 separate hands, splitting either offensive or defensive depending on the situation. In order to split the cards 2 separate hands into 2 separate hands, the player needs to put a second bet equal to the first on the table next to the original bet, and his signals are then split by making a fork over the 2 fingers. The dealer will be split the pair with placing 1 card or by each bet. Now that the player has to start with the 2 independent hands, he receives the second card on the figure first hand, proceeds to play. The hand is weighed, any of the other hand on the other hand, and finish for the dealer will distribute the second card on the other hand. Player carries out the same. Play carries out the same. Or another option, a player has the double down of the double on the bet of the 2 cards with existing hand. The player can double his bet after seeing the first 2 cards, but then is required to take exactly 1 hit. To double down, the player simply places a second bet equal to the original bet in the table next to the first bet, and the dealer will then deal 1 card to the player. This hand is then finished. Then this hand is finished at this point, but the player can always double down on his first 2 cards, but is only recommended in certain instances. Doubling down is great when their player has a good chance of making a high hand, or you're likely to bust while the player wins double. Last option, player may have the insurance. This is only the option with the dealer showing an ace. Insurance will be discussed more in detail upcoming chapter. 4. Dealer's option. When the dealer begins to play his hands, his 2 options is stay hit until either makes his hand or bust. In casino, the dealer must hit their hand until they reach a total of 17. And once the dealer has at least 17, he's required to stay. If the dealer has over 17 on the first 2 cards, he must stay and not take any hits. Also in most casinos, the dealer is required to stay on soft hands or 17 or more. A soft hand, it will include includes an ace. An example that would be a dealer over the ace and 6. A soft hand that would be either 7 or 17, but many of the casinos saw 17. The few casinos require their dealers to hit soft hands. This actually gives the house a few tenths of the percent more as far as advantage is concerned. And the dealer, the ace, showing that he will offer insurance to the player before checking his hand for blackjack. And the majority of cases, insurance is a bad bet, showing not to be taken. Insurance is discussed in depth in the following chapter. 5. Insurance. Insurance is a side bet. Protect your hand against the dealer's blackjack. Not often referred to the event when the dealer has ace showing that the player can choose to take with the insurance, placing a bet equal to half of the original next to the first bet, but the dealer check for the blackjack. If he has blackjack, you lose your original bet. But if you get paid 2 to 1 on insurance, in other words, you would break even in the dealer with the blackjack, but the dealer does not have the blackjack, you lose your insurance bet, and the hand is then played out with a normal hand would be. There are 4 possibilities to resolve the insurance as an option. There are, you take the insurance but the dealer has blackjack. In this case, you lose original wager, but you get paid 2 to 1 on the insurance. You break even overall. 2, you take an insurance but the dealer does not have blackjack. In this case, you lose your insurance bet and the hand is finished, and you lose your hand. You lose your overall, and if you win the hand, you win overall. You do not take insurance but the dealer has a blackjack. In this case, you lose your original wager. If you don't take insurance, the dealer does not have blackjack. In this case, the hand is usually if you win and you win, if you lose. When should you take insurance? The answer is rarely. Some people believe that all hands should be insured. Others say that only high hands. There are emotional decisions, not logical ones. The bottom line with the blackjack game of the percentage odds over the dealer has 10. You want insurance, the odds of are that it doesn't want it. And in general, the insurance, the sucker bet, whether you put up 50% of your bet for a 30% out of the dealer, normally has 4 out of 13 chances of having 10, and the counting of the player will know that the dealer's odds are Insurance should only be taken when the dealer's odds are over 51%. The shortened insurance should be taken if the true count applies of 3 or higher, with accounting will discuss detail in upcoming chapters. Basic strategy. Back to basic strategy is playing strategy that has been formed for the year with the computer-generated hands of play every with a possible combination play almost every situation, having evaluated a million simulated hands. Strategy, when derived with a give the player with the best possible odds over the long term. The strategy is known for the basic strategies, except for the worldwide with the best way. Optimized odds of placing basic strategy are at 3% disadvantage of the house. Basic strategy is necessary to learn in order to count cards properly. When counting cards with the basic strategy for about 80% of the time, the other 20% of the player deviates to do the count when learned in this later chapter. The basic strategy has accepted for the standard answer from the overall million hands. The strategy gave the player odds higher returns and is simple. Basic strategy is not hard to learn. In most cases, the common sense, but for most part, if you had a bad hand, the dealer showing with a bad hand, you stay and let him bust. If you have a good chance of busting, why would you want to bust first? And since if the dealer had a better of the hand, you obviously want to take a hit and try to improve your hand. Similar situations with pairs sometimes result in splitting to achieve best chance of winning. This is because splitting can either defensive or an offense play, but the dealer is showing the bad hand and you have the chance of winning both hands. You would split in a situation where you had a bad hand, and splitting may result in winning or losing situation, leaving you breaking even instead of losing. There are two ways to learn basic strategy. The first, memorize the visual color-coded chart. The second is to learn from mnemonics. Remember the few small sentences that make it easier to remember the basics for pairs and soft hands. For the pairs, you could try to remember 2, 3, 7, and 2 through 7. 4, 5 through 6, 6, 2 through 6, 9, except 7, 10s, and aces. 8 and aces always, and 5s and 10s never. Never split 5 and 10s, 8s and aces always. 9s, except when the dealer's up cards of 7, 10, or ace. 6, when split 6s, when the dealer has 2 or 3, 6, 4 through 5 through 6, and 2 through 7, and 2, 3, and 7, and 2 through 7. A soft hand, remember to have the following: A2, A3, double down on 5 and 6. A4 and A5, double down on 4, 5, and 6. Ace with a 6 or 7, double down 3, 4, 5, or 6. A7 stays against the dealer. 2, 7, 8, and hits at 9, 10, or ace. Casino will allow you to play with the basic strategy code in front of you if you choose. It will allow you to play the basic strategy card in front of you if you choose. They know that it will still have an advantage over you this way, and highly recommend to memorize basic strategy because you will see that later there are 2s that will now follow with the due to the count if you have the card in front of you and suddenly are not following with the strategy while making large bets. It will look very suspicious. You can find the basic strategy chart at the end of the book. Counting. Why should you count? To win. I don't know anyone who goes into the casino to lose money. Everyone goes in to win, but once they get there, they lose, and they tend to justify the losses by saying, "I'm just going to have fun. Why not have fun? Win thousands by counting cards. You give them again a mathematical advantage over the casino. Will walk in a winner." Is casinos cards, is card counting legal? Yes, card counting is about 100% legal. Casinos, however, they do a greater job making people think of it as illegal. They know that everything did, and they would be out of business. What does the counting of the tell the player? The counting tells the player with to do the mathematical advantage over the house as well. But it has a disadvantage. When the player has advantage, he will bet more. When a disadvantage, he will bet less or even not even play. Dealers win there more than low card. Dealers win when there are more low cards 2 through 6 in the deck of the higher cards than higher cards 10 through ace. In this case, you will most unlikely have a bad hand, as when the dealers you will stay helping for him to bust. Instead, it makes his hand hitting small card with the more high cards of the players. At a disadvantage, counting tells you when they are abundance for the high cards, a positive shoe, and when this abundance is little cards, a negative shoe. Advantage of a positive shoe, you get big hands. You can catch bit high cards when you double. The dealer's bust when you having hit. For in relatively a real positive shoe, the dealer will have 10 under when showing an ace and taking insurance to taking insurance to break even. Disadvantage during a negative shoe, the dealer hits small cards to make hand. You get small cards with doubling down. You get bad hands 12 through 16. Using your knowledge, avoid playing negative shoe with the fine with the shoe with the stacked in your favor. All casinos have many tables. You'll just have to do a little work to find that one for you. Alright, 8. How to count. If you can add and subtract with the counting cards, it will be easy for you, but you want to start with the counting of the beginning of the shoe, with the keep of the running count throughout the shoe until you stop playing. Your count will start over with each new shoe of cards. Every 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is played with the will count is positive 1. 7, 8, and 9 the neutral cards will be counted, even will not be counted. Every 10, Jack, Queen, King, and Ace will become negative 1. You're probably wondering high cards are counted negative, the low cards are positive. Little card benefits for the dealer show more than those that come out of the play early, but the better you let for you later. Those little cards are counted positive. The count is called the running count since it's kept continually through the shoe. But remember, you need to count with every card with the play down the table, even with the dealer's whole card. Ideally, you want to play one-on-one with the dealer, in which case the counting will be easy. Only a few cards are on the table at a time. If you play a full table, there will be more cards on the count per hand. You will need to be fast. Here's an example of counting. Suppose you're playing one-on-one with the dealer. The new shoe started with the first hand. You receive a 10 and an 8. Dealer receives a 10 and a Jack, and then thus beating you. The running count is 3, negative 3. Your 10 is negative 1, the 8 is neutral, 0, the 10 is negative 1, the Jack is negative 8, 1. Adding the values together brings you to the running total of negative 3. The dealer downs to the next hand when receiving the 4 and 6. The dealer receives a 7, and you double down on the per strategy. Receives 10 for your hit. The dealer now flops on the whole card. His 6 takes a hit. Bust out with a 10 running count is now negative 2. This is figured by taking the previous running count 3 and adding the hand's total plus 1 of plus 1. Your 4 is plus 1, 6 is plus 1, and your 10 is negative 1. The dealer's 7 is 0, but the 6 is 1, and his 10 is negative 1. The process is repeated throughout the shoe until they decide to stop. Counting takes place while getting used to it. Takes the time to develop with the power, concentrate with the count, with the throughout with the shoe, with the being distracted, with the best way to learn. Count with the practice, with the deck, with the cards, and flip through them one at a time, keeping the running count as you go. You reach the end of the deck, your total should be 0. As their equal numbers are high and low cards, you accurately count with the deck at 35 to 37 seconds. Proficient enough in the real time and to real tables. Once you're able to count with the deck, flipping one card at a time, try flipping 2 at a time and while counting. I personally find it easy to do 2 at a time. Ideally, you want to scan the table, cancel all highs and lows when possible, leaving only single cards to count. This makes things much easier. Alright, 9, your true count. The second count was kept with the true count, but the true count is per deck count. Is one of the lets you know how big your disadvantage and advantage or disadvantage any of the given the time. The important count is you the figure you're betting of the playing strategy. The count is calculated with the taking the running count and dividing by the number of decks to be played. For example, if you have the running count of 10 and there are 3 decks left to be played, you will left to be played in the shoe. Your true count is 10 over 3 with a 33.33 rounded down to 3. If, however, the running count is negative 2 with 4 decks, your remaining true count would be negative 1/2. The true count is very important. If the count is the true count is very important. True count is used to determine the current bet, but also determine the fact that you should deviate with the basic strategy. We'll learn with the deviation of the basic strategy section of this book. In order for you to true count with it be right, you must be accurate with the running count with the end of the shoes where you generally make up with your money, and you will see the importance accurate with the count with the best section. If your count is wrong with the end of the shoe with the few cards remaining, you will be either grossly overbetting or underbetting your advantage. If at any point during the shoe with the true count reaches with the tooth negative 2, you would stop it immediately. Shoe with the expectation you would give it a net to negative with the count and continue to play with them while only with the cost of money. Says the best thing to do is go to the bathroom, wait for the new shoe. You can also sit out a few hands, continue to count. If the true count returns to 0, begin to play again. If the true count reaches through negative 3 or higher, you have the larger advantage. You will see that yourself capitalizing. Alright, betting. Properly betting with the most important aspect of the playing. Betting money with the wrong times just will cost you just as much as being too small with the wrong times you want to have with the big money with the table. The odds are heavy in floor favor. The only way to win the game of the blackjack is to spread with your bets for the bet with the same amount on every hand. With flat bet, you will be consistently lose. This is because the house will win more hands than overall. You can gain your advantage by minimum when the house has advantage and less likely to win when betting big when having an advantage. This way you lose with the small hands and win the big hands. On big hands you will make up for 4 to 8 small losses. According to Kelly criteria, the player should be no more than 1/100th of the total bankroll if the player follows the playing betting method if the black book teaches, as well as with the Kelly criterion. Therefore, 97% of the chance of doubling your bankroll in the long run and 3% chance of losing it. All pretty good odds. Here's a formula for calculating your bets. Alright, you have a true count, you have 32 unit bets, 32 4 count, 16 bets, 38, positive 2, 4, 1, positive 2 unit bets, 0, 1, negative 1, 1/2, and negative 2 stop play. I, however, recommended a 1 to 8 spread, everything with a 3 or higher with the begin with 8 units. Spreading your bet to 16 and 32 units will increase your wins, but it will also bring you to too much unwanted attention to you. Using a $20,000 bankroll example again, the maximum bet would be 208 units. This makes the base bet 1 unit for $25. Using the betting system explains below. Above will true count reach a positive 1, you would bet $50. If you reach the positive 2, you would be able to bet $100. If the true count reached positive 3 or higher, you would be at max at $200. What if the true count is negative? Ideally, with the true count of negative 1, you would bet 1/2 the unit of, in this case, the $12.50. If you're unable to lower your bet at that low, then you must play the table the minimum. As stated earlier, with the true count reaches negative 2, you should immediately stop playing. 11. Money management. The most important aspect of the gambling and the money with the management, you need to discipline and walk away when things are bad, not getting over aggressive when they are going well. Remember that you are at a casino with the money and not to lose and finally fun day out. Number 1 rule: gambling is only a game of money that you can afford to lose. In other words, you shouldn't be able to casino with trying to win and rent money or your car payment. For you, optimize your advantage over the casino. Your bankroll should be at least 100 times the maximum. Using system properly, playing with a discipline, you will double your bankroll over the long run. 97% of the time, if you tend to overbet and underbet those, you change with the losing with the bankroll increase. I tend to believe you should be able to take the whole bankroll in a single session. I tend to believe you should not take the whole bankroll in a single session. The reason for this: some days the card just won't fall for you. You could lose the whole bankroll in one day, even playing correctly. The flip side: if you have a good day, you would need the whole bankroll, as will be winning more and much more money as you go. The limits of losses, basically no cap that your wins are likely to take 30 to 40 times band 10 for the minimum bet session if you're playing a $10 table, $300, $400. As stated earlier, the most important thing to remember is to manage with the money, but to have discipline. If you're losing, don't get caught chasing your loss. If you do soon be broke. If you lose before I go, the casino likewise continue with the top points as you win. This ensures you go home with a profit. Suppose you went up to $500 per day, $500. Suppose you're up to $500 for the day. It's a good idea that $250 and $300 of profit in the pocket continue to play with the rest of the profit. If you lose the money, call it a day. That you go home with a profit of a few $100s. Don't dig into your pockets to chance your money or loss. Thus is what the casino wants you to do. The chances are you will go home broke, be happy anyway. Win, and it's still a win. 12. Deviation on basic strategy. There is which you make money on with the deviation from the basic strategy placed and based on the count. The basic strategies normally tell you the hit of in a certain circumstance, but the information count goes in may tell you the higher odds of the bust. You then would override the basic strategy with the proper deviation. After all, Why would you want to bias? There are hundreds of deviations that will focus only on 16. These 16s are one of the most frequent. Usually they are most important. They'll be used certain times between the positive 6 and 1 true coup count. Deviations were derived from millions of hands with a computer-aided generated play with as part of it gives you the 3% advantage for the part played correctly. This not always works for the majority of the times you find with yourself in the situation. Deviate your work for your blackjack games of the odd, and when you deviate the odds that are will help you. As noted earlier, insurance is a sucker bet. When you the probability will save a lot of money, as you will see with the insurance taken whenever the true count is by a 3 or higher. This situation, the dealer has a higher chance of having blackjack. Most cases, the insurance will save with your bet. Even if your hands are garbage, insurance will still take in your prayer, and you pray that the dealer doesn't have the blackjack. This way you will break even instead of likely losing otherwise. There are literally tons of deviation for the basic strategy depending on the true count. However, there are 16 that will occur the most often. Will you the 16 deviations cover the true count positive -1 to positive 6, but we don't bother learning deviations below -1 because you shouldn't be playing at those times. Below 16 deviations suggest you memorize. Alright, your card dealer's cards 9, up count, true count of 6 and up, stay. 16 to 10, 1 and up, stay. 15, your card dealer's up card 10, true count 5 and up, stay. 13, your card dealer's card 2, true count of -1 or below, hit. 12, your card 12, the dealer's up card 2, true count of 4 plus, positive up, stay. 12, your card up, dealer's up card 4, -1 or below, hit. 12, your card, dealer's up card 6, -1 or below, hit. Your card 11, dealer's card ace 2, positive 2 and up, double down. Your card 10, dealer's card ace 5, true count of 5 and up, double down. 10, your card, dealer's up card 10, 5, true count of 5 and up, double down. Your card 9, dealer's card 2, true count of 2 and up, double down. 9, your dealer's up card 7 and 4 and up, double down. Pairs of 10s against the dealer's up card of 5, 5 and up, split. Dealer's 10s, dealer's up card 6, 5 and up, split. Insurance 3 and up, take it. I've met many people who claim counting cards, yet they do not know the deviation of these people and tend to lose. Why they reason very simply. You've already shown them the basic. We've already shown them the play basic strategy will set the player at 3% of the disadvantage of the house. Now, if the player is counting with the properly bidding with the counting properly, but fail with the play of the deviation, is still with the only playing basic strategy. The only difference is if the player has more money at the table at times, essentially, if it's still playing with a 3% handicap, the deviation will make up the majority of players' advantages. Allows you to make the correct mathematical play with the will have with the large odds, the large money of the table, the counting. Counting and betting won't get the job done if you fail to make the correct play. Therefore, you're not going to use the deviation. You should play basic strategy without using counting, bet spreads. Otherwise, you will likely to lose the hands of large money on them. Alright, 13, deck penetration. Deck penetration is an important factor to select for the table to play. We will talk about deck penetration, talk about the numbers of the cards, depth of the shoe that the player gets in play. Most casinos will place a cut in one of the decks to 1.5 decks to play with a 6-deck shoe. This allows the player 4.5 to 5 decks. This greater penetration when played with the 5 to 5.25 decks. The more cards the player is able to play through them, the better it is. Casino table cuts more than 1.5. If the casino table cuts more than 1/2 the deck of play, you should find another place to play. Here's an explanation. Deep penetration variable card counter. Suppose you have the positive running card count and positive 13 with 3 decks to go. Your betting, however, with a good chance that you may not go, but you may not get the cards if you're looking because of 14 additional high cards could be anywhere with at least 156 cards. Though we know that 14 more favorable cards, there is a loss of variability, which they can beat. And with the dealer reshuffle the 2 decks cards, you will now go into the favorite cards but allow to play. Last deck, your odds capitalize with advantage. With the greater, the more cards you play, the lower the variability of the cards can be. This is why most of your wins will be in the end of the shoe. If you have a high positive count mid-shoe, you may win money on large bets, but you may not. There is high variability as whether the paper cards are however where you have high positive count at the end of the shoe. You know that the cards are there and you will get them, thus winning most hands. Alright, Chapter 14, Casino Countermeasurements. Casinos spend a lot of money on the loss prevention. Protect the cheats from the card counters, but cost them millions of dollars per year. Any business would have the casino great length to identify the card counters, keeping them from playing. They have a database known with the card counters, usually facial recognition programs to help identify suspected advantage players. It's for a reason that you have a highly skilled blackjack player. You must know with a hot fly under the radar. After all, you have the long, prosperous career winning in the money. Before going into the casino, make sure you know the rights of the player. Never let the casino backroom you. If the security says they have to accompany, that you have accompanying them to the office of the backroom, any other place, tell them you will not go. If they insist or force you, you make it clear that it is against your will. You're not committing a crime. They cannot hold you and detain you against your will. They can, however, escort you off the premises, ask you to leave, tell them you will gladly leave. As a good customer should never be treated in this way. You will never come back. Refuse to show any identification you have done anything wrong, and they must leave. They must let you leave. Many states have different gambling laws and regulations, so make sure to know the rules of how to play. With the Vegas example, to tell the card counter how he cannot play at all. No trespassing or no trespass from your property. Then you can make a flat bet, shuffle whenever you choose. Come on the deck, have all the essential, make it impossible for the player to capitalize with the game. In Indiana, the casino cannot exclude you from playing or make you play a flat bet. Because you have a skilled player, this catch here through is their private business, private property, and they can legally ask you to leave and no trespass you. All they have to do is make it a different reason when throwing you out. All they have to do is make up a different reason when throwing you out. Here's a little prevention measure for the casino may take against a skilled player that affects that have you. Overcutting the casino may choose to cut 3 or 4 decks out over the 6-2 check deck shoe. This makes the card counting pointless. You're only going to get to see half of the card, so even with a shoe card, even if the shoe started, you would likely chances are that all the cards you want are in the back half, and you will never get to them. Early shuffle. Some casinos are allowed to shuffle whenever they choose, even if the cut card has not been reached. They obviously horrible for a counter. If the casino believes that you're counting, they will wait until you have the advantage and press your bets, then walk over and reshuffle to prevent you from even being able to play with large advantage. Flat betting. As stated earlier, the house will win more of the hands than you. Make your money by able to spread your bet and win when you have more money out. The house makes you flat bet. You will not be able to overcome the fact that you will win more hands. Barring. In most places, the casino may choose to ban you no trespass you from the property. What you don't get told is that you will also circulate your picture worldwide through the database, usually with a major blow to your career, as from any casino worldwide that suspects you of an advantage player, that they can search for a picture and find information from the database you asked to leave. And shills. Some casinos have known to place shills at your table. Shills are players employed by the casino. You will join their game and will join your game by trying everything they can to throw you off. This may include playing badly, talking to you, insulting you, just about anything shy of fighting you. If you're a male, they send a beautiful model over to talk to you and seduce your hopes of getting you to talk about your skills by literally of the type of the permission suddenly shown up at your table. Alright, 15. Disguising your skills. In order to stay ahead of the technology advance for the casino, the card counter must continually find a way to disguise the skills. The various ways to do this below are listed a few ways to conceal your skills from the casino. Have an act. You don't want to draw suspicion yourself that you have the basic choice to try to act natural, carry out the small talk, really put all the on acts of some sort. Whatever you decide does not constantly stare at your cards. If you're trying to figure something out, you look like you serious and focused. The pit will look like you're finding suspicious. After all, most people are there with a loose and have fun. Most people have trouble coloring cards and talking, so they are able to carry up and most people have trouble counting cards and talking, so if you're able to carry on conversation while you play, it is beneficial to you. If you are playing big money, you may want to act with a large amount of the money to spend. Not care happens. Never drink alcohol when playing, as it leads to irrational decisions. Playing cards, a good idea is not to give the real name of the casino, but if intending on counting. This means that you should not get a player's card or get a player's card. If you use a fake name, I suggest you find a friend who doesn't know how to count and travel with you. This way he can get a player's card, me and you both, or you can use it at the tables. Computers track card holder winner losses. So by him playing the card, sometimes most likely losing, computer statistics, you will give the pit boss the impression that the player is a normal player. Casino won't be suspicious of you, and they will also accumulate with the comps. House will think that you're just an average player who periodically gets lucky. If you ever do get caught, casino won't know your real name. Fake IDs do the right thing. You would need a fake ID or multiple ones if the matter. Ideally, you want different names at every casino, and you play. This is achieved by having players' cards under a different name that each player you play. Since you get enough fake IDs may be a problem. This is a way you can get out of the one casino. In fact, they fax your picture and name around. It should ruin your playing career. Remember, the casinos have an access to DMV database, so your IDs need to be very good and from a foreign country. Credit cards, ATMs. Do not use credit cards or ATMs at the casino. They're just opportunities for the casino to invade your privacy, find out who you really are, and cash is the king. Playing errors. If you feel pit crew is watching you make a few mistakes, insure 20. Double down at wrong time or lower your bet once the count goes up. Making the key mistake, asking dumb questions, will almost instantly lessen the heat of the bet. If you buys another day of play, even a few extra hours, it did trick. When you're playing big money in advance system, it is a good way to confuse the house. The only problem is that it relies on streaks over bets. Your advantage is the large bankroll, however, the usually handle system. The next section shows the percentage penalty a card counter can expect. List of strategy mistaken. Or it plays a mistake with their mathematical penalties. The player suspect that the house watching him must be good. If the wrong moves so strategically, this will usually work for the manager. All of the boss will see the commitment of the mistake and think he can be a professional card counter making a mistake like that. Below, list of common strategy mistakes, mathematically penalty of the card can expect to lose, committing them. They are ranked in order from least of the damaging player to the worst. Ensuring blackjack don't hit soft hands on 8 and 18 against 9 or 10. Insurance 20 and 10 and 10. Split wrong pairs don't hit soft 17s. Never double down. Staying low hand. Against dealer cards, hitting low hands against the lower dealer cards. Alright, 16. What is team play? Team play is when a group of card counters get together collectively playing as a team. Team can range in size from 2 players, 10 players, 10 plus plus players. The concept divides the counter better over the duties among the player. Counter often plays with the table. The minimum will keep the track of the count, but the count is variable. But the counter will single with the better. Better will then walk up and bet larger until the advantage is over. The walk off of the casino often does not know what happened. Advantage of the team playing is both of the teams can be advantages to the card count, but the individual must meet with the raise, lower his bet within this count. After a while, the look of the white suspicious if he wins the win and big money is down with the team play on. On the other hand, the disguises is when the counter and the better of the duties split among players of the casino seasons off, and the player with a large sum of the money walking up, playing a few hands, continuing only on throughout the casino. So the player is always betting big. He often appears he is just a rich player randomly throwing out big bets since he only plays a few hands, jumps in the mid-shoe. He doesn't see them to count the cards. Team play, as always, allows the larger bankrolls to be utilized most often. The group as a whole will have more money with the play with the individual large bankrolls. Also have not only large bets, but also have the active financial cushion. On the best advantage of the team play with a large spread with the ratio of the individual player can get up to 1 to 8 spread ratio of the bet for looking too conspicuous. Only $25 with the minimum table of the player with a very suspicious for the SE with the betting $25 to $50. Certainly start with a bet few hundred a hand. However, the money man from the team can walk up with the book and play a 500 toe hands of $350. Not liquidly suspicious at all. This now gives the team spread 1 to 20 or more. Teams allows the card counters essentially cover over the table of the team, and as 5 players may have the 4 acting counters. Different tables of 1 acting with a full time with a better with allowed with the team's assignments to cover the table with them at the item at the time. Whenever the individual counters can only cover 1, the chance of the good of the on the one table will have the favorable shoe with a given in the moment. In Vegas, and large teams may have the groups in many different casinos at the same time. Team member role. Most team members are compromised with the following players' position. The eye man with the counters of the better. For the eye man with the roles often to watch the pitch and keep the eye out with the casino heat with a signal with the counter with the big player. If he knows with the casino heat coming, the counters often play with the table to bet with a minimum and play with the average Joe would. The main role over the kept the count with the table the signal with the big player with the shoe with a high favorable with the counter. Pass with the count with the big player with us through the code word or signal. Big player is then the man with the bankroll is signaled at the table by the counter. He is passed for the table count for the point on. He bets large and plays until the advantage is over. Once the advantage is over, the big player walks off and waits to be signaled again. The player is most advantaged player on the team needs to be highly proficient in card counting. Picking team members, since large sum of the money would involve the selection of the team member, is very important below the few factors considered by choosing the teammates. Honesty clearly most important for 3 out of the big player handle the most moment. It is imperative that every member with 100% of the honesty trustworthy with the dealing with the money with the background checks are common. Some teams carry out lie detector tests. Loyalty goes on hand with a honest for the player with a gets questioned about the casino. You need to know that they will stay quiet and not give up the other players' names. Ability clear. All players should have the high proficiency card counter with a big player. Often most of the skill that the team of the counters must be able to precisely count down the table. Also very good to help with the big player has some of the acting ability, having a believable story such as the trust fund kid, foreign businessman helps to explain when the big bets being laid down. Swell with the player should smooth in both story with the pitching with their play with the counting should be second nature. This allows the player to carry out with the conversation act normal while the playing with rather than starting with the table of counting. Signals. Teams need to develop a set of signals that can be used to pass the information player but need to be able to notify each of the other when the casino heat is coming over the table advantage but also magnitude of the count. Teams may also use the colors of words to represent the magnitude of the count. For example, the yellow might be associated with a 3, orange might be associated with a 4, count positive 4, with a big player signaled at the table with the counter will may signal, say to the dealer, I had some really good orange chicken at the Chinese restaurant tonight. Upon hearing this, the big player should know that the count is positive 4 for the current moment from the point where the big player should know how to play. Wiping the forehead with the stretching with the maid with the signal with the casino management, coming with the crossing with the arm and the may signal with advantages for the player. Post-session evaluation. After playing session, team members should be together with a predetermined location from the casino to go over the day's play. Discussion things that went well, the things that went wrong, idea of improvement to make sure that the money situation is correct. Chapter 17, Miscellaneous Thoughts. I believe that you have a low card counter is better than playing at a table alone with a table full of other reason that you control the game better with the deck is not deck is hot. You can spread with a multiple hand with the dealers. One, suppose you have the high count with a spread with the 4 or 5 hands. You know how the many with the favorable cards are left, and you know how to take the next 10 out of the 12 cards. You played correctly, effectively steal with the cards from the deal. If you're playing with the 5 people, you would not only be getting 2 out of the possible 12 of the 14 cards coming out to the table. You could be likely to be the bad cards, large bet out, while the others, the good ones, if the barely are any money wagered, high cards come out, you would have one shot at them. Even if the player alone didn't play multiple hands, you should have probability of the few hands with the capital at the count. Another consideration I cannot stress enough to make a play and I cannot stress as that you play like a computer. If the money says to take a hit, take a hit. If it was if the money math says to take a hit, take a hit. take it. When the first learning there were times when I wouldn't follow the math, I wouldn't follow the instinct. Most often I was wrong and the math was right. As I mentioned before, when looking at the table, look for the one with the greatest deck penetration. The more cards you have to get to see the player, the better off you will. My favorite 6 deck of the 2 deck games. My favorites are 6 deck and 2 deck games. I found when playing 6 deck game, there's no really fast swings. They're very end until they very end. If the good and we will, if it's good, the good for a while with a head and bad for a while. The 2 deck games is considerably volatile. The reason for this is the calculating true count is dividing by only 1 and 1.5 decks left to play. The few good and bad cards for true count can go from even +2, even to -2 in one hand. It also, for this reason, the 2 deck is most dangerous for the individual card counter playing $25 table. You may have an even count on one hand and +3 count on the next. It would be quite suspicious if your better goes up to $25 to $200 in one hand. It would look really suspicious if the count drops and you're back to $25 bet. Alright, and then that goes you the glossary, and then the tables. Your basic strategy, charts, and we can't copy these down, but basically you can buy these at the casino or get them offline in the and this was Whack 'em Blackjack by Card Counting Made Easy by Michael Ryan Board.